Hey there, and welcome to this short video. I'm Alex Goad, best-selling coach, author, and small business marketing specialist. And today I want to talk to you about how you change your life in an extraordinarily big and significant way, even if everything that you've tried so far has only gotten you this much progress until you defaulted back to the way that you used to do things, or you never even got off the first go space in the first place. All right. Here's the gist of this, is that in order to get from where you are now to where you want to go, you need to lift up two of the anchors so that you can actually move the ship. So imagine that you're like a ship, and that ship has an engine and you can move, but there's a reason why you're stuck in place. It's because you have two anchors down. One of those anchors is inside of yourself with your behavior, your perceptions, your past, your experiences, and the other anchor is on the outside of you, and it's a very powerful anchor, and it's in the environment, and that environment is driving the way that you think, the way that you behave, the way that you associate, the way that you perceive yourself, your opportunities, your challenges, and all of those different things. So, the number one mistake that we make is we try to change our lives, our results, dramatically using willpower alone. And willpower is one of the parts of the formula because you need willpower to look at things objectively and then make a new decision. But you want the environment to do the heavy lifting. You want to outsource accountability, as Benjamin Hardy says, so that there are these forces that are acting outside of you that actually push you along, pull you along, and help you get the big results that you want to get. Otherwise, if you try to do it all in your head, and if you try to do it against the grain, the result is 99.9% of the time that you make very little progress and you end up in the same place. So, you want to radically increase your income, change your relationships, travel the world, live a completely different life, and maybe finally become or begin to become the highly driven, highly motivated, high contributing person that you dream of being. Here's how you're going to do it. It's a 13-question audit, and I'm going to go through these questions really quickly. I invite you to print this document, write down your answers on it longhand, and look at the insights that come out from it. You're going to see this has the power to change your life when almost nothing else can or will. All right, first question. First of all, what are you trying to do? What's the big thing that you want to do? And the more you can clearly define that, the more you can arrange your environment outside and inside so that it helps you get the result that you want. If you have several different goals, then it's very hard to align all of those factors to point towards that goal because different goals require different parameters. So, step one, pick one. Define it clearly. Write it down. Then, list the top 5 people in your life with who you have the most interaction. And so these should be the most significant people in your life. What do they want from you? What do they expect from you? How do they perceive you? How do they perceive your chances of accomplishing something? Do they want you to have it or they don't want you to have it? Those things are tremendously important. So write those people's names down on a piece of paper, and then in the little parentheses next to their name, you're going to enter either a -2 or a -1, -2 being a large negative influence, or a 0, which is a neutral influence, or a +1 or a +2 being a very positive influence. So here's a very good example, is if you want to become a highly paid and highly respected business owner, but you hang out with a group of people that are not that and that think that highly paid and highly respected business owners are evil jerks that want to rob people, then that association is costing you a tremendous lot, much more so than you can ever imagine. And the thing is, it's not even a conscious thing. See, research shows that if you have a close friend who has a friend that becomes overweight and you never meet that friend of a friend, well, your chances of going overweight increase dramatically. The same thing if that friend of a friend gets a divorce. Your risk of getting a divorce goes up dramatically. So attitudes and behaviors are contagious several generations down in your associations group. Nothing will shift your results faster than shifting your associations, because the most powerful factor that drives thinking, behavior, and accomplishment is social gravity. And if you want to hear more about that, watch my previous video. Next question. How do you re-engineer, or how do you engineer your social gravity? Well, listen, I'm not going to tell you to remove people from your life, or I'm not going to tell you what to do in any way, shape, or form. What I will tell you is that your associations, you have to view it kind of as a tool and as an environment that's producing a certain result in your life. How can you minimize or avoid certain relationships, at least even just for a time, and how can you increase or maximize the impact of positive relations in your life? Is there a group that you can join? Can you get a mentor? Can you become part of a mastermind? Because all of those things, once you find yourself associating with other people that have the same goals, dreams, aspirations, and that put value on the same things that you're trying to accomplish, then that's kind of like a wave that pushes you along. And it's the most powerful force of behavior change, bar none. Next. Real serious question, and there's some serious stuff coming up too in the rest of this little audit. But here it is, are you acting out any addictive behaviors? And when I'm talking about addictions, I'm not talking about just using hard drugs or sniffing glue out of a paper bag. I'm talking also about the two most popular and widespread addictions in today's world, which are food and technology. So Robin Sharma likes to say that you can either fiddle with your phone or become a legendary performer, but you can't have both. I think that's pretty accurate. Here's how you know if you have an addiction. And I'll tell you what, right now, if you diagnose yourself with a serious addiction, consider getting professional help. Here's how you know if you have an addiction is, do you pre-plan the behavior? Do you displace other things in order to enact the behavior? Do you think about doing it when you're not doing it? Do you displace other things, other opportunities, in order to do it more? Do you experience a kind of bottom of the container effect where, for example, you tell yourself that you're going to have a scoop of ice cream, but you end up having a scoop of ice cream until there's nothing left in the container? Or do you tell yourself you're going to watch a 25-minute TV show to get your mind off of things, and then you're going to do something else, but you end up binging out all night? That's a sign of addiction. And finally, or not finally, does it disrupt your family life, your relationships, your other goals or aspirations? Does it get in the way of other things that you've committed to? And now finally, do you keep coming back to it despite the fact that you've tried again and again, sometimes even successfully, to stop or to avoid it, but somehow you always end up in the same place? Well, those are characteristics of addiction. If you feel like you've got one, I can tell you that it's costing you a lot more than you think it is. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's one of the number one things that will prevent you from connecting to your true, authentic self and materializing that. Okay, next question is, how picnic is your goal? And essentially what picnic means is that the things that tend to get done in this world follow a set of characteristics. Here's what they are. Is if there's a consequence, if that consequence is immediate, and if that consequence is certain, then there's a very high likelihood that the thing's going to get done. Whereas if the consequence is a weak consequence, if it'll only happen sometime in the future at an undetermined moment, and if it's not certain to happen, then that dictates that that behavior, that action is unlikely to be taken. So it's up to us as human beings that desire to have high performance to construct incentives in our environment that allow us to benefit from that kind of picnic type, well, for lack of a better word, either punishments or rewards. Okay, we tend to think when we become high performers, we become responsible for our own performance. You know, I experienced this because I was a minimum wage earner for most of my life. And then one day I decided I'm going to work from home and I'm going to make my own situation and I'm going to become my own person. And then when you have to generate your own energy, when you have to generate your own accountability, when you have to decide when you're going to start and when you're going to stop and how much you're going to get done, and nobody's peering over your shoulder. Nobody tells you this is good, that's not so good, how come you didn't produce more today? When you're responsible for all of that, all of a sudden you realize that you need to use the same tools that other environments use in order to create the behavior that they want. And that's kind of like the carrot and the stick. So you need to carrot and stick yourself, and you need to think about how you can do that so that there are immediate and certain consequences to doing things right and doing things wrong. And it can be really tiny little things like, you know, giving yourself a tiny little gift when you do things right. And an example of creating a punitive environment that discourages bad behavior is prepaying sessions at the gym at specifically appointed times, and then if you don't go, you lose the money. Well, that makes it much more likely that you'll go. So use those factors to your advantage, because if you don't, you're leaving a lot of it up to chance and it doesn't work very well. All right. Next, strategize your opportunities and challenges. Here's what this means. It means that if you're in an environment that has a lot of opportunities, and the environment can have opportunities for two reasons. Number one, because there's opportunities in the outside environment and they're everywhere because things are booming, things are going well, and things are on a growth path. And the other side, the other place where you can have a lot of opportunities is generated from the inside. If you have the right skill set, the right attitude, you will be in demand in that environment, and that demand will mean that you have options. And having options is one of the things that really makes it very likely that you will have much higher performance, rather than if you're in an environment that has too many challenges and is too scarce in opportunities. That tends to create apathy. So it's very difficult to go against the environment. So if you're in an opportunity poor environment, get out of it. If you're on a sinking ship, jump off and start swimming away as fast as possible, because a sinking ship tends to create a vortex that takes everything down with it. All right. Next question. Real simple. Are you healthy? Are you energetic? Are you clear-headed? Because if you're not, and those are really part of the internal parameters that create opportunity in the world. You know, you can only do so much as you can make decisions, as you can use your energy to accomplish those goals. And having health is kind of the angle stone of having all of those things. And it's the angle stone of allowing you to, go for those big, medium, and long-term targets, because if you've got challenges in that department, it makes it really hard to focus on anything else. So I've written extensively on those topics, and I encourage you to go back in my previous videos or get my book and get those things in order, because really those are the things that those are some of the most important parameters in your environment that dictate your behavior. Next question. It's going to seem a little weird, but are your communication and marketing skills up to par? And the reason why I ask this question is because nothing changed my life quite so much as learning the principles and the bases of direct marketing and marketing in general. I had studied psychology for years before then, and I learned more in 6 months of marketing, sales, and copywriting than I did in several years of studying psychology. Because when you find out how to influence human behavior, then you know how to influence power, you know how to influence the flow of money, authority, fame, desire, and all of those things. And those are always the most valuable things in any environment you can find yourself in. So if you want to be in an environment-rich, opportunity-rich environment, bring those skills to the table, and you'll see you'll be in high demand and you'll be very valued. Number 10, how confident do you feel about accomplishing mid to long-term goals? So this is something that for me, when I made the transition from an ordinary life to a 10x life, the biggest thing that changed for me was that I was able suddenly to take down mid and long-term targets, whereas before I was infected with short-term thinking. Like I needed to do something today where I get the result today, because I couldn't even think a week or 2 weeks down the line. Never mind 6 months, never mind 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But what I developed though was a methodology whereby I was able to suddenly create an idea, create a plan, and see it through to the end no matter how much time it took. And I'm telling you, that's one of the magical skills of high performers, is that they can set themselves a goal today and still be working towards it 2 years, 3 years, 10 years down the line. And that's just as easy, and in fact leads to a better and higher performance life than doing the opposite. All right. Next question. We got 3 to go. This is a really important one. Question 11 is, write down 3 things that are the most likely to disrupt or distract you from your goals and from reaching them. These things are going to be different for anybody. You know, it might be that you tend to get sucked into social media and do a whole bunch of screen sucking and social media clicking, and maybe that's the thing that sucks a lot of the energy out of your day and a lot of the productivity out of your day. For me, one of the big ones is second guessing myself. So if I allow myself to second guess my plans, my ideas, my goals, my objectives, then I can spend a lot of time there, and I can just kind of turn around the same ideas over and over again in my head and get absolutely nowhere except generating a feeling of lack of worth and anxiety inside myself. So find out what your top 3 disruptors or distractors are, write them down on paper, and then when you see yourself doing it, you're going to go like, oh, I see what's going on here, because those really are sabotage mechanisms. When you know how you sabotage yourself, you're going to do it a lot less. Next question. How often do fear and resistance detract you? So resistance is a term coined by Steven Pressfield, and he's a writer who's got 10 or more published books out there. And what he found was that resistance is this force that's always there, that's sneaky, that's omnipresent, and that's always trying to get you off track. For some reason, this force wants to stop you from doing anything truly meaningful and significant. And if you've ever told yourself that you're going to start, for example, writing a book, going on a diet, doing a big charity project, and you tell yourself, I'm going to do this tomorrow morning, and then you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you feel like there's a giant mountain in between you and your objective, well, that's resistance. That's how it shows up. And a lot of the times it's really synonymous with fear. And then the question is not whether you feel that way. The question is whether you do it anyways or whether you give into it. And largely, there's the difference between the high performers in this world and the non-high performers is that the high performers, when they feel that force, they go straight into it and they say, you know, I'm going to do it anyways. And they do it anyways. Whereas the low performers shy away from it, join groups of other low performers, and then find reasons why it's okay not to do it. And I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to tell you that that's one of the defining characteristics of high performance is you decide that you're going to do the thing, the fear and the resistance comes up, and you do it anyways. Last question is, how can you make better use of systems, routines, and rituals in your life so that you produce the results that you want? There's a ton of these, but we're not going to talk about all of them. I want to talk about just one of them real quickly. So I've created this routine, this morning ritual called the 7 by 7. It's 7 things that I do for 7 minutes, and those things ensure that every day I have a highly engaged day, that my energy is way up there, that I'm super clear on what I want to do, that I know exactly how I'm going to do it, and so on and so forth. You know, there's a system for having a good day, and it means that you have to plan it and you have to do it. And if you don't, what I found was that before I was doing this ritual, I would have 2, sometimes 3 good days a week. Whereas when I do the ritual, I have a good day 95% of the time. The reason why is because being a high performer, working on medium to long-term goals is definitely not easy. It's not the default thing. It's not the mainstream thing. And it requires far above average concentration, determination, engagement, clarity, energy, and all that good stuff. And there are systems that you can use so that every day you produce these things and you become the kind of person that's able to take down those big targets. It doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. Hey, I invite you to do this audit if you haven't been doing it as we've been talking. And if you have been doing it, write a comment below and let me know, what do you think is the thing that will make the biggest difference for you? What's one shift that you can make in your paramosphere so that you start experiencing different pulls and different pushes inside and outside? This is one of the most important exercises you'll ever do. So hey, I'm Alex Goad. I really appreciate your time and attention, and I want to remind you that real life is going on right now. It doesn't start tomorrow, so today counts. Behave yourself accordingly, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.